Extreme Monsters Book 4, Battling Bigfoot, Chapter 5, Dead Heat. As team leader, Val figured it was his job to worry. Worrying helped him deal with small headaches before they became big ones. Whatever Team Pendant was up to, Val figured he'd better keep an eye on things. Now that he'd finished his segment of the race, he could remove his power-dampening wristband. He slipped out of his bindings, picked up his board, and stowed it in the waiting transport vehicle. But instead of climbing onto the ATV, Val unsnapped his wristband and leapt into the sky. From high above, Val surveyed the BMX track. Steiner's race was an odd sort of hybrid. It was a point-to-point cross-country endurance race that snaked up and down hills and through thick woods, with a few hair-raising elements of steep downhill racing thrown in. Steiner had figured his segment of the race would last 30 minutes, and it looked like he was well ahead of the pack. Good, thought Val. I have time to pick up Mumford. Val flew to the cliff edge where the young mummy had just declined an ATV ride to the starting line with the other climbers. Mumford glanced up, grinning. Val scooped him up and soared into the air. Normally, carrying a pal wouldn't be a problem for Val, but the surprises of the mountain boarding event had been grueling. The fact that he couldn't gulp down a bottle of his favorite sparkling beet juice left Val feeling thirsty and a little off. But carrying Mumford with him was worth the extra effort. If a problem developed, and after what Val had seen, he thought it likely, two people would be able to do more than one. Steiner stood on the pedals of his BMX and rode through the shadow cast by Val and Mumford, hovering high overhead. About time they got here, he thought. The first 10 minutes of the race had been a challenging powder run that kicked dust high into the air. It was a near washout. The dry creek bed that came next had him riding the pegs as he jolted over fist-sized death cookies. He fought to control the front wheel, as it seemed to skew in every direction but the one he was aiming for. Glancing up, Steiner waved to his teammates. In the instant Steiner's eyes left the terrain, his front wheel slammed against a grapefruit-sized baby head, almost flipping his bike. Stupid, stupid, he grumbled as Cletus Lion moved up on him. Pay attention, this is your race to lose. Looking back over his shoulder, Steiner saw that 5 other racers were bunched in a tight pack behind Cletus, vying for position. But Cletus was hammering fast and hard, pushing ahead recklessly, gaining on him. He hated to admit it, but Cletus was an excellent rider. Steiner and Cletus were side by side when the trail dipped into a terraced juice beet field. They bumped across washboard ruts, teeth and bones clattering as they fought for the lead. Ahead of the two racers lay a planted windbreak, a double-track tunnel of vegetation overgrown with gnarled juniper trees and tangled brush. Steiner ducked to avoid a low-hanging branch that would have clotheslined him off his bike. Mumford squinted at the ground from his vantage point in Val's arms, trying to see through the juniper branches.
"I've lost Steiner,"
he cried.
"Shouldn't he be out of the woods by now?"
Cletus and Steiner burst from the thicket, riding neck and neck. The trail pitched downward along the slope leading to the next terrace. It was covered with parched brown foliage and dried up beech leaves. 7 other racers steamed out of the thicket, close on the leader's heels. Val and Mumford looked down to see Cletus stick out a boot and kick at Steiner's bike. But Steiner saw him too. He swerved and dropped back, allowing Cletus to pull ahead.
"That's cheating,"
shouted Mumford.
"Come on, Steiner, don't let him get away with it."
"No," said Val.
"Steiner anticipated that move. I know he could have avoided it. He must be up to something."
The yellow-clad biker sped down the steep grade, his wheels kicking dust in Steiner's face. Suddenly, Cletus's front wheel sank out of sight. The rider pitched head first over his handlebars, did a nasty face plant, and slid down the slope into the field beyond. Steiner made a split-second decision. He bounced hard on the seat of his BMX and bunny-hopped neatly over the hidden ditch, landing safely on the other side. The riders behind him reacted more slowly. A few slammed on their brakes and wiped out, causing others to smash into them. It was a total crash and burn. One girl slid into the ditch with an audible crack. 4 bikers swerved around the wreckage, avoided the ditch, and barreled down the hill after Steiner.
"What happened?"
Mumford gaped at the tangle of bikes from his aerial vantage point.
"Man trap,"
said Val, dropping toward the ground.
"A hole covered with blown leaves. It looks like solid earth, but you see what happens when you hit it."
3 bikers jumped over bike wheels twisted like into potato chips and climbed back on their bikes. Cletus had gotten lucky. He had landed in the soft dust without a scratch. When he pulled his bike out of the hole, it seemed to work fine. Cletus climbed on his vehicle and sped after the others. Val and Mumford sat down beside the pile-up. They pulled the human rider from the wreckage. He had sprained his ankle and wrist. 2 riders suffered bruises only, but their bikes were trashed. At the bottom of the ditch, Val found a green-skinned witch. Her right leg was bent at an unnatural angle, with a bone poking through her skin. She was bleeding and seemed to be in shock. It didn't take a medic to see that the girl needed help quickly. Val had learned basic first aid to deal with extreme sports injuries. He grabbed a broken top tube from the biker frame and used one of Mumford's sticky bandages to stabilize the leg. Leaving Mumford with the others to wait for help, Val carefully flew the young witch to the finish line. EMTs rushed toward Val as he landed. Quickly, they settled the girl in the ambulance and raced for Sugar Mountain Hospital. T-Rex and Doc hurried over to find out what had happened. Even Damon left his lounge chair beneath the leafy cover of a group of old-growth oaks to amble over.
"There are problems with the races,"
said Val. He told the group about the loosened rocks in the cliff face, the landslide, and the hidden man trap.
"That's nonsense, my boy,"
said T-Rex kindly.
This is rough and tumble racing in an untamed environment. Of course, there have been some bumps and bruises.
He turned to Damon.
Right, Damon? Nothing to be alarmed about?
Damon frowned.
A rock slide on the mountain board race, and a hole, you say? In the middle of the BMX track? We vetted that course yesterday and there wasn't any hole. The mountain board course was stable, I'll swear to it. Injuries mean bad publicity.
His voice trailed off. Doc raised an eyebrow. Val shrugged. Both noticed Damon had mentioned the loosened rocks. So he cheated there to give his team a head start. But he had done it so that the climbers who fell would be caught by their belayers unharmed. But the other parts of the course? For his own selfish reasons, Damon actually cared if anyone had been hurt. Whatever's going on, thought Val, maybe this time Damon Christopher isn't responsible.